Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. Oda's had his break, so we are now back for the chapter releasing on Sunday, but leaks have brought it out early as always. But lovely little continuation of our Kuma backstory we've got going. I cannot believe we are now at the mark that we are one chapter away from 1,100. That we're actually hitting it by the end of 2023 is crazy. But lo and behold, here we are, 1,099 chapters later. So, without further ado, chapter 1,099, Pacifist. And we have a lovely cover story request coming in the form of Oda writing about Odin. Love it. So, nice little tie-in with the end of Wano coming this Sunday. We are then straight into Egghead itself, where we are still currently at, which is going to be a crazy time. But nevertheless, we have Odin here, and we have some Tanukis styling his hair. Now, we don't have this Tanuki, we don't have Chopper here. Can't really see. Don't have him, unfortunately there. But we have other Tanukis who are the ones modelling his hair. So nice to see out the end of Wano anime-wise with an Odin request. But last we left off, Kuma was informed that Bagori, the prior king, or the still king, had turned back up and was just laying waste to the Sorbet Kingdom. And we pick up in the Inferno, the whole place is on fire, and Kuma is in the middle of it, just tanking the blaze like an absolute man. And he's trying to rescue as many people, and all of the elderly and all the villagers who are like safe and watching on from the distance are like, look, Kuma, there's no one else now that can possibly be saved. You've saved everyone you can. Don't add yourself to the casualty list. We need you like alive. And we're starting to see more of Bagori's like outlook and view of this all. And he's like, this ideal he's got of this effective form of policy is to just wipe the slate clean. And he said he's copying it from something he's seen in the Far East, and says that, well, this will certainly curry favour with the Celestial Dragons by just burning everything away and leaving this spotless city ready to be rebuilt and redone. And he's saying, look, someone's got to do the devil's work. Someone's got to ensure, there's new land, new space for the rich and the bountiful. But we are getting reports that the people are still in an uprise. They are still revolting. They are still resisting. And Bagori's like, they just can't see the greater good in this, Just kill 4 or 5 of them and they'll get the message. And we see people just getting shot, getting dropped, and everyone is in a panic. All the guards are like, wait, who's this coming? And we see Kuma in a rage. And before we see the continuing of the face, it's like a brief sort of shot of Bonney at the church. And the wounded are being taken here. And Bonnie's like, look, like, I've never seen like my dad on the edge like this. Like, this is like really serious. Like, is he going to be okay? But Kuma, just remembering all the pain and suffering, seeing what Bagori's done, is already just fueled enough fire. And he's like, these are the consequences, And Bagori's like, what you're doing right now, there's going to be an uprising, you're not going to get away with this, you bumpkin of a priest. And Kuma just annihilates the castle. Just massive airs of shock, just destroys it. And it was on this day that we had the Sorbet's one-man revolution. So the history books now remember this day, which is great. But we are getting this reported in the Holy Land of Marishwa. Yes, an informant, a marine, someone is telling none other than St. J. Garcia Saturn that Sorbet has a new king. And he's like, wow, that's so strange, you know? I wonder who the crown has fallen to now. Now, St. J. Garcia, we're starting to get a lot more of him and Kuma's backstory than I thought we would. And one of the theories that has just become very prevalent in the time we've had since the reveal that Bonney is the daughter of a celestial dragon and Ginny. So not Kuma's kid, even though she sees Kuma as a dad. We know that Bonney is actually born from a celestial dragon and Ginny. And the current theory says that St. J. Garcia is at the top of the list for old dad of Bonney. So it's seemingly getting those hints with the amount of times he's showing up in this backstory. We saw him at God Valley and all the references. We're now seeing him again here, being informed about what's happening. He's currently at Heghead with Bonney. No, and he took the hit from her. He doesn't just cast her out and see her as an insect, as like other people have, or other people are to him. He just sees them as insects, he says. But he seems to take a certain compassionate side to Bonney. Is Bonney St. J. Garcia's daughter? That's going to be a mad twist if it is. But tangent aside, we come back and we find that obviously the crown has fallen to none other than Kuma, but not through choice. Kuma didn't want to take it, but the people were just so relentless. He just eventually said, right, I'll become king, that's fine, but I'm staying in the church. So he stays up, takes residency in the church as king still, doesn't move to the castle, and all the old elderly people are like praising him and still coming and talking to him. And Kuma talks about Bulldog, who is the old king who used to run the country. And he said, look, he's the one really running it. He's the like his advisor. And he's like, oh yeah, he was a fair man, that old king, you know. Our hearts were full even if our, you know, wallets weren't. And we cut away to a young lady running up and down like the church, sprinting, running laps, saying, you know, gotta up my stamina, you know, gotta get stronger. And everyone turns around and is immediately caught off guard by it's Ginny. They see Ginny running, and Kuma freaks out. He's like, what the hell is Ginny doing here? And this lady turns around and is like, why are you guys looking at me? Like, you know, I just want to be able to go sail a sea with my daddy, you know, I just want to, when I turn 10, that's what I'm going to go do. And like, wait, what? And as she's like, look, I'm just trying to build up my stamina. She looks in the mirror and is like, wait, what? And there is an uproar, and this lady reverts back to a child, and we see that it is Bonney. So we get this little funny moment that Bonney has eaten her devil fruit. So she was running around as her adult, probably 20-year-old self as we see her now, and she immediately drops back to her child self. And we see like, look, like, right, Kuma, pull it together, right. One of the elderly pulls out the encyclopedia, you know, devil fruit encyclopedia, is like, right, only one it could possibly be is the age fruit, but where did she find it? Like, what possibly could it have turned up here? And we see that Bonney is like tense and everything, being like, granny time, like trying to turn old. And as the door opens, we got the announcement that Bulldog requests an audience and is coming on in. And for a moment, one of the residents, who's like the guy with almost like a cowboy hat on and like just a vest, he must like look away to the door. And as he turns back around, it's like, oh my god, Bonney, you did it, you turned old, look at you. Picks up this little old lady and it's like, you're amazing, look at all those wrinkles, you did it. And off to the side, like just behind is Bonney still going, damn, like I still can't make myself old. And then she walks to the door and starts talking. He's like, oh, like, who are you, old timer? And he calls her Princess Bonnie, obviously, because Kuma's now king. But we find this man to be Bulldog, and the old woman that the guy is picking up is obviously the Queen Dowager Connie, who we've seen Bonnie transform into or pretend to be way back during that reverie part. But he's requesting this audience with Kuma because Kuma is now branded an evil tyrant in the newspapers. So King Bagori's plot now is like a smear campaign. You know, he is producing this propaganda that the whole reason the Sorbet Kingdom was on fire in the first place and this revolution that happened was actually because Kuma initiated it all to take the throne. And he's being painted as this like evil, evil tyrant. So they're discussing their plans and saying, look, like, Bagori's going to come back. He's laughing at this probably overseas somewhere, but he wants to come back and take the Sorbet Kingdom. And it proves he still has the backing of the world government. So he's just going to bide his time. He might already have his ships. You know, there's already reports that he's building an armada. And all the old people are just, again, like, they don't want to see him back. And Kuma's like, you know, I'm one step ahead of you. Like, he's not going to step foot on soil here in the Soviet Kingdom. But that just means I'm going to have to, like, go out to meet him and just stop him there. He's not coming here. So he asked the elderly, and he asked Bulldog specifically to look after Bonney. You know, take care of her, keep her safe. And we see a great shot of the Queen Dowager Connie next to a small Bonney who has wrinkled her face, and she's like, yeah, I did it. Like, she turned herself old. But Kuma explains, look, he's gotta go, you'll be safe here, I'll be back soon, basically. And we see this incredible standoff shot of just this like 3 like marine armada ships just absolutely ready to shoot at Kuma, who's in just a small sailboat, and he's just stood there, and it's like, he's the tyrant, he's who we want, he's the corrupt one, kill him instantly, I'm the rightful ruler, is what Bagori's saying, and Kuma's just not having any of it. And even the narrator's like, and of course Kuma sunk the entire armada. You can just hear like that sarcasm. But afterwards, because of all this and the attacks on the Marines and the armada, we have the announcement now that he's now branded a pirate. His strength fueled his notoriety, and he's now got a bounty on his head. So he's a tyrant, he's a pirate, he's this king, he's got loads of titles. What we cut away to now is something I wasn't expecting from Oda to tie back in, but genuinely, it was an incredible moment and just a subtle touch from Oda to connect even more stuff that I never thought needed connecting. So there is an interlude of montage now with like Bonney missing Kuma, and Connie's trying to like cheer her up and be like, look, like, Kuma's saved us, he's our hero, he'll be back soon, like, you know, you got to understand. But she's like, look, like, I'm going to be a pirate too, I'm going to go out like my dad, I'm going to go set sail, I could be an adult right now if I wanted to be. But what we see Kuma doing is traveling around to different islands. Now, I was taken aback because it could almost be seen by some people just like, oh, he's traveling to different islands, he's looking to encounter people who may have encountered these sapphire scales or know a potential medication or solution or cure to this illness. But the islands he ends up going to now are the islands he sends the Straw Hats to during the time skip at Sabaody. What a just an amazing little detail of seeing Kuma actually visit the places. So the first place is where he sends Chopper, which is the Torino Kingdom, where like the birds are seen as like gods or like the higher forms, and all the humans worship them. And Kuma's like talking to them, being like, she can't go out in the sun. Like, have you ever encountered this disease before? And they're like, no idea, like that, how awful. We see a shot of him at the Kuragana Island where Mihawk ends up being. Like, we see the castle in the background and those big like curled mountains. We see there's people coming out for his bounty like pirates, and he just destroys their ships. A snow-covered island likely to be the Karakuri Island. I've had to write all this down. There's so many island names of where Frankie ends up going. So there's like the lab, like the old Vegapunk lab. We see the bridge that is being built by all the slaves and like revolutionaries, and well, the revolutionaries take it over, but the slaves that are building it, the one where Robin gets sent to, that then the revolutionaries later release her in, and that's where she trains. We see weather area where the wizards are all doing the mad weather stuff, and Kuma's like touching bubbles, and he's like trying to help her, like, or trying to find a cure for Bonney. And everyone's like, look, it'll be a miracle if she reaches her 10th birthday. That's all he's hearing. And one of the final ones is we see the archipelago that Usopp gets sent to. We see, it's got to be, we do see Hercules, the dude in like the beetle like armor, he's just like chilling there, and Kuma's like talking with him. So that is such a little touch from Oda of Kuma having visited those places. So then when he eventually deals with the Straw Hat to Sabaody, he sends them to these locations he's already been to. He's experienced those kingdoms. He knows what they're like, those islands. And that's such a clever little just connection from Oda. Oh, really satisfying, that one. I wasn't expecting that, but that was great. Anyway, coming back, we see Dragon's ship, and what an incredible ship he does have. This like black dragon just like looming over as like the figurehead. And we see the first shot of Bello Betty, Morley, and all them. We see them all greeting Kuma, and Dragon is greeting Kuma as an old friend, saying, Ivor and Inazumi. Goodness, that was a tongue twister. Inazumi and Ivor have been caught and sent to prison. We know that from Impel Down. And look, like, you made a name for yourself now, like Kuma. You're king, you're tyrant, you're a pirate, like, you're wearing a lot of hats. We can see that Bello Betty is actually the one to just carry on talking and say, look, like, the revolutionaries, we're getting serious now, but by the way, Kuma, how would you feel if I became the captain of the Eastern Forces? Kuma's like, why are you asking me? And she says, well, Dragon over here says because of Ginny holding that position prior, he won't let anyone else take it without your permission, without your blessing. And he's like, yeah, another short-term woman heading up the Eastern Forces. Why not? Fine by me. And then Dragon comments about, like, Sabo and Koala have been training. They're older, they're, stronger. They'd love to see you, and you'd be great to see them and see how far they've come. And Kuma talks about, what would Dragon do here? That's all he used to ask himself at each island. But, he'd like to return to the revolutionaries, but again, his priority is Bonney. And it is Dragon who's the one to say, oh, well, actually, you reminded me. Have you heard of the Navy scientist, that goes by Dr. Vegapunk? Well, there was an accident the other day, and he's had to switch labs. And right now, because normally it's really tricky to get a hold of him, you've actually got a good chance of, security being pretty lax and getting a hold of him if you, want to go see him. And he's like, look, I appreciate that, Dragon, and, I'm going to cure Bonney's disease, and then I'll be back at your side once more. And Dragon coming up with the lines of just sheer wisdom. He's like, go where the winds of fate take you, my friend. So we're getting more of like Dragon's character now and how close he is with actually the revolutionaries and where his priorities are. But we come back to a brief shot of Bonney training and like really like going hard on like the other people on the island. Like she's training, she got like a live to eat shirt on, but you know she's still a kid, like no more than 8 or 9 at this point. Maybe depends how long Kuma actually travelled between all those islands. But the final part now is them arriving at Lab 8, which is the future location of Egghead. And we see the initial meeting of Vegapunk, Kuma, and Bonney. Bonnie's in like a little like wooden bird cage, like that she's being carried, and Kuma is like huge at this point now. He's like fully developed, and like Vegapunk is taken aback, like Kuma, you are like people do come in all shape and sizes, like you're massive, and he's like, funny, I was thinking the exact same about you and your head, because at this point Vegapunk still got his like giant head. He hasn't like cut it off yet and made it the Punk Records like dome, but he's talking about how his physique is like astronomical. Like he wants to research him for the name of science, progress, and you know, oh, like is this little child? Is this the one you told me about who's like sick? Look, she's like seems like a cheeky scam because she's like, holy cow, like your head is massive. But we see while Bonney spends time with Sentomaru, like, and Sentomaru's like giant axe, and she's just like swinging on it. We see the discussion between Vegapunk and Bonney, Vegapunk and Kuma, and Vegapunk is saying, "Yep, these sapphire scales, you know, you've done well to like manage her, but I can cure her. I can do it." And Kuma's like, "Wait, you can just like that?" And he's like, "Well, to be more precise, it'll be more like a stem cell transplant, something we have in our world like nowadays, like, but it requires a lot of money and effort in the procedure. It's almost like making her a cyborg." See what you did there? See what you did there? But Kuma's like, "You're not making her a cyborg, like, really, are you?" And he's like, "No, it's just a comparison, just comparing for no particular reason. Like, why would I ever mention a cyborg?" Anyway, but we see that Vegapunk is like flicking through documents, like readings, because he must have been doing a brief medical checkup of Kuma, and he realizes that he is of the Buccaneer tribe. And he's like, "Wait, you're a Buccaneer?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, you know." And Vegapunk's like, I work for the government, right?" "Nah, you trust Dragon. Like, why is my blood so special anyway?" And he's like, "I don't have enough samples to explain it in any detail, and we don't get any more information." God damn it, Oda. So something to do with his DNA makes him so rare and special, like the Lunarians. The Lunarians' DNA, their blood is so makes them like already strong naturally, like skin defense and everything. The flame that just made invulnerable. Buccaneers also have something in their blood which makes them or like makes them special. So there's something about Kuma that we don't quite know. Just that last little bit of why the Buccaneer tribes were all wiped out, and Kuma's one of the only ones left. But this is where Vegapunk reveals he wants to clone Kuma, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been researching for a perfect model for my clone soldier projects, and you are it." And he comes to a little agreement. He's like, "Look, if you donate some of your blood to me, if you give me permission to make these soldiers based off you, I'll waive all the medical expenses for Bonnie's procedure." And he's like, that's an offer like I can't pass up on, but like, what are you gonna do with these clones?" And he's like, "Look, an army where all the soldiers just look like me, are they going to be like the Marines? Like, what is actually happening here?" And Vegapunk says, "Well, have you ever heard of electromagnetic energy? My soldiers will have bodies that deflect bullets. I want them to shoot lasers. But more importantly, I want them to be heroes that protect the weak and helpless. You know, That is all I want in the film. And we see that, they'll be warriors of the future. And Kuma's like, wow, you really like wear your like ambitions on your sleeve. Like you're just so honest and trustworthy, but also eccentric. Dragon, Dragon mentioning all this. But Kuma sort of resolves to himself, saying, if my clones end up saving people, maybe I can view that as a good reason to why I was born. And Vegapunk's like, right, guess this is it then. And Kuma comes up with just a beautiful thing at the end, saying, honestly, to cure Bonney, I would have made a deal with the devil himself. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say the devil right now in this situation is St. J. Garcia. Because just following this comment, we go back to St. J. Garcia, and they're saying, they're saying all this, Kuma and Vegapunk. And St. J. Garcia is listening into it all. He's sat in a chair, looking out the window, and there is a transponder snail just relaying. And it's like, look, these clone soldiers are meant to be weapons. They're gonna like kill people and stuff. And St. J. Garcia's like, Vegapunk's a fool for not making the most of this chance, but no worries. I've got my own plans, got my own ideas. And the people respond like, yes, sir, like your words are command. So St. J. Garcia knew about this happening and yet hasn't acted upon it until later. Or he definitely turned Kuma into a cyborg because this is probably one of his ideas. And maybe also because Bonney is his daughter and he wanted her to be cured. But yeah, for Kuma to say I would have made a deal with the devil himself, and for J. Garcia to just show up immediately next, I think he is the devil in this situation, and he's going to make a very, very tough deal that Kuma will have to take. And I think it ain't going to go well. And I think that's why Bonney is furious with Saturn. Because Saturn is like really like, oh, really holding it over them, I reckon. But Kuma's like, Vegapunk calls Kuma a saint, and he's like, look, I'm not a saint. I am a spineless pacifist. I just want to keep the peace. And Vegapunk's like, keep the peace? Oh, I like the sound of that. Why don't we call them the Pacifistas? So that's how we got the name. And that's where we end chapter 1099 with Kuma saying he's a pacifist and the naming of the Pacifistas in honor of Kuma. So I still can't believe like there's that connection and like we're only just being told it now. Like we've known about the Pacifistas for years and now this is the origins of them. No break next week. Chapter 1100. Are we going to go back to Egghead or are we going to stay at the end of Kuma's backstory with what ideas St. J. Garcia Saturn has? We shall see. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of this chapter, and I will see you next time.